afternoon, wherever you are, whoever you are. Welcome back to the Oliver Perry Show. Today I have a fantastic guest, a guest so good that I wanted to go live to make sure that you guys got to see her in real time speak. She is a real estate investor. She is a real estate agent. She flips. She's a leader. She's a coach. She's a powerful woman out of Chicago. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to introduce Miss Rashauna Scott. Rashauna, how are you, ma'am?
I'm doing great. How are you? I feel like I was about
Fantastic.
to do a drum roll.
Listen, I've really got to work on some sound effects. I got to get some sound effects, maybe some crowd noise in here to really welcome you in, because I'm excited to have you on today. I'm just really excited to have you on. Like I've said, I've watched you before on many a platform for about a year and some change now, but it's not about me, it's about you. So if you could please, I'd like it if you could kind of introduce yourself to the audience and kind of give them a background on who you are and what you do.
So, who am I? Like you mentioned, all of these titles, realtor, real estate investor, all things real estate, born and raised on the south side of Chicago. I am a daughter, a friend, right? You mentioned a coach, a leader. I do run, a women's membership group, which I'm sure we'll talk more about later. But yes, professionally, that is why I'm sure you invited me on here today to talk about real estate.
Among other things, actually, whoops, wrong side. So I wanted to be able to talk about quite a few things. There's one thing I don't feel like you get enough credit for, and it's not real estate. It's your brand. How you go about your movement is really, really impressive from the side as I'm learning myself, as money. I'm sure some people are listening, are learning the branding side of the house and how much branding can really do. I once heard Max Maxwell say that he made more on his brand than he did through real estate or anything else he was doing, which is wild. And in considering that, and Flippininheels and Rashauna Scott, not just you as the investor, but you as a real estate agent as well, your name has gotten really big. Was that movement intentional, and how did you start that?
It's funny when you say my name has gotten big. That's kind of
Mm-hmm.
scary to me, and I don't know if this is confirmation, but that's the second time I heard that today. So I'm like,
Really?
whoa,
Okay.
right? um, but so you asked me, was it intentional?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say yes. I would say yes, it was intentional. And it first started because I didn't think I had a brand. That was the reason
Mm,
why, right?
right.
And I want to say we're in 2021. So about 2014 was when I was introduced to live streaming, and Periscope, had just come out and everybody was periscoping. And that was the big thing, was, it's periscoping.
Right.
And it was introduced to the world where you could literally click a button and now you're in so many people's homes from all across the world, right?
Wow.
And from there, not even fully realizing the effect that you could have on people. But the other thing was, when you go live, if you're going to choose to go live, what are you going to go live and talk about, right? and
Right.
then and then realizing that, like I said, the fact that you are a brand. So many people who first are getting started out in business, not thinking that they have a brand because it may look like a certain way, when all in all, you do have a brand and you are a brand, whether you want to be one or not. Right, whether you
Right.
accept it
Right.
or not, whether you realize it or not, when you walk into a restaurant, your brand walked into into the restaurant, right? Your
Right.
brand walked into the movie theater. Right. So that total representation,
Mm-hmm.
for one, in regards to the outer appearance, but then as it came down to business and educating on the things that I was passionate about, then that brand translated into what was being said out of my mouth. So, yes, it was intentional to build a brand,
Mm-hmm.
but it was also, at the same time, the intention was to teach, right? To educate and
Right.
to inform. And so I guess that's where it started. That's a great question, though.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, that is, I think that's because it's really important. We don't pay enough attention to those who really take the time and build a brand, because they say success leaves clues. Your success,
Hmm.
at least for me personally, your success, Max, the Polites, all those who are of the same hue and in a different arena than I am, are
Mm-hmm.
the success that you got to look at. So that's how I see it. Now, with that being
Mm-hmm.
said, let's get into Flipping in Heels, because Flipping in Heels is a really dope effort with
Thank
you
you.
and teaching women and inspiring women to getting to the real estate investment field, which is, let's just be honest, it's not as many women as there should be in the real estate investing field. There's a lot of women in
Mm-hmm.
design, but there's not actually as many doing the flipping part of it. How did that start, and then where do you see that going now?
Mm. So Flippininheels started because I was looking for women who I could connect with, who I could relate with, and looking for someone that I could look up to. Really,
Right.
I was like, who are the big name women in this industry? Because when I first started out, years ago, and invested a lot of money into real estate education and things like that, the
Mm-hmm.
founders of the company, even the educators in the company, didn't look like me, and I don't know if there were any women, and if so, they were definitely not. There were definitely no black women. So
Yep.
again, at that time, it was really more so. It it came from the fact that there was no representation, and I was looking for her, and
Right.
then in the face of where there's lack there's opportunity, and so if it
Absolutely.
doesn't exist, create it. So I am a strong believer of that, and so I said, okay, well, for one, if I don't see her, then there is opportunity to become her. But then also, along my journey, I've been blessed to meet other women who have inspired me, who I have been able to bring to the forefront and say, hey, these women do exist. There are women
Right.
out here that are doing all of these amazing things, and I'm grateful to social media, for one of those main reasons, to be able, being able to connect with so many amazing women who are doing amazing things from all across the world. And like you mentioned, you see women in um, different areas of the industry, but not a lot. It's very much so a male dominated industry, right?
Yeah.
And so women in real estate, I was saying, they can do more than be realtors, right? Show up and dress nicely and open the door, right, at
Mm-hmm.
at a showing. We can cut the check, and we can cash the check. We can
Let's go. Let's
be
go.
general contractors. We can be project managers. We can flip houses. We can do wholesale, tax lien,
Right.
landlords, right? Like all of these titles that are again associated with a male dominated industry, right? Like anytime that I've done rentals, the earlier part of my career was spent a lot of time just only doing rentals, and oftentimes I would speak with the potential tenants, and they would always
Mm-hmm.
ask, "Oh, the landlord this, the landlord that. Well, can you ask him this, or can you ask him that?" Right? It's
Right.
automatically assumed that the landlord is a
A
male,
male.
and
Yep.
that's why with my clothing line, I have the she collection that's coming out, and it's gonna say certain things like the landlord is she, actually, or the owner is she, and things like that. And that's literally something that um again, just in my everyday conversation, even when I have clients now, that when I have tenants that are looking to rent properties, sometimes if the owner is okay with me disclosing who they are or not,
Right.
sometimes I smile in the back of my mind when they're like, "Oh, can you ask the landlord? Can you ask him this, or can you ask him that?" And then when it's a woman, I kind of
Right.
get some secret satisfaction, because I'm like,
Right.
actually, the landlord, she is a boss.
Right. Absolutely. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Okay. Cool. So,
Yeah.
man. So let's. So now that you got Flipping Heels, and Flipping Heels is doing quite a bit. If I remember correctly, you had your third annual Badass Women in Real Estate,
Yeah.
right? Was that
My
was
fourth,
uh,
fourth
oh, it was the
annual.
fourth? I'm off.
Yeah.
Okay, so I missed one. Okay, so when is that? When's the next? Is that's the one coming up? When's the next one coming up?
So it's every March for Women's History Month. So
Okay.
yeah, we just had our fourth one, and it was something that I just did, and now here we are 4 years later.
I like it.
But
I like it.
again, that was a it was a part of the initiative, right? It was a part of the
Right.
movement. When I think about the brand from 4 years ago, it definitely was not where it is now, but
Right.
the mission was still the same, right? So
Right.
I can't even tell you how many followers Flippininheels might have had, or I can't like, the page was very new and the brand was very new, but again, the mission was still the same. And here we are 4 years later with the same goal and the mission to highlight, educate, and inspire more women, investing in real estate.
Right. But even then, just like we said, it's just super impactful because you found a space, you realize that there's not enough impact in that space. Now you're making that impact. Here's a question in that regard. What has been the most impactful for you about your brand?
Good stuff. No lie, my women's membership.
Mm,
Like, I am so full, and the membership is obviously underneath the brand. It fills me up to see the women buying their first properties, closing on their first properties,
right.
investing, doing this, doing that, having a sisterhood, saying, "Hey, I'm stuck here. What are your thoughts on this?" Like, I didn't realize how fulfilling it would be. And what's so
Right.
funny is, I it it ta- it I have I well, I was about to put myself out there. I was about to say I don't have a commitment issue, but sometimes I do. And I hadn't committed to anything in the digital space,
Mm-hmm.
really, to be honest, because like I said, I mentioned like Periscope days around 2015 and whatnot, and everybody had a course, right? Even today,
Right.
everybody's got a
Even
course,
everybody got a
an
course. Yep.
ebook, or something, right, that they're selling. And I just really wasn't that salesperson to be in that digital space. And
Right.
so, I would get asked, "Oh, when are you doing this? Or when are you doing a course?" And I don't even learn like that, like a beginning, middle, and end. I'll start a course, I'll pay all
Mm-hmm.
this money, and I probably won't even finish it, right?
Right.
So I never took the time to sit down and create one. But when I say, you know what, I'm going to do something that is ongoing because it's necessary and it's needed and it fits my style, right? It fits
Right.
my style of learning and just doing life and doing business. So I need something that's ongoing because in the growth, right, the evolution,
Mm-hmm.
like, that's what we need. We need something that's going to continue to grow with us as our business grows. And so that's why I created something that was ongoing, and it has been one of like the longest things that I've committed to.
Right.
And I was and even on the days that I didn't feel like showing up, I
Mm-hmm.
showed up, and I was blessed like beyond measure, right? Like, there would
Right.
be certain days where I'm not feeling it. And we're only twice a month, right? Every first and third Tuesday. But in the beginning, it was something that I definitely had to, get adjusted to.
Mm-hmm.
And I have friends that are very successful, like I said, in the digital space, and showing up is so important, but it is another job. Like, I remember when I was trying to keep up with live streaming,
Right.
like coming up with a fresh topic every day, or okay, catch me on Periscope Live every, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Like, it's a job.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
But when I realized that, I was showing up, I wasn't showing up for myself, right? I was showing up for
Right.
other people. I was showing up for the women in my group, and to see just how it is truly changing their lives. I mean,
That's awesome.
I wouldn't trade it. So that totally has been the most impactful thing that I've done with the brand.
That's I mean, that's just dope. Just to be able to hear it, even though, I can't join the group. I might try and sneak up in there through my wife, but I can't join the group right now officially, right?
Listen, listen, fellas, that's how you get in, okay? My brother signed his wife up. My friend signed his girlfriend up. That's how you
Yep.
get in.
Yep, that's a fact. So, but yeah, but so let me ask you. You about a year ago, you were doing the, I want to say, the DJ Envy, was it DJ Envy real estate tour, or you were giving a guide. You were doing a guide you was in Chicago, of course, and you were driving around. And in the clip, there's a clip where you're driving through. Of course, you're driving through Chicago, but you drive past President Obama's block. Weird question, yes, but is it still blocked off? Is it still really gated going through there and going around there?
Yeah, so from the main road, there's like a main road on 51st
Mm-hmm.
Street. It is still blocked off. There were barricades at the time. I can't remember if there's still barricades, but it's definitely still gated. But you can actually go through the neighborhood. Like it's a tour.
Wow.
You can park, yeah, you can park on the side and it says, no cars down the street
Right.
unless it's presidential. But you can definitely walk up to the house and there's gates in front of the house and you can like take pictures and things like that. But you can definitely walk
That's
down the
awesome.
block. But yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
think it'll be gated forever.
That's awesome. Okay, so going back to the real questions, because that was a, I know it was an odd throw in, but that piqued my curiosity. I was watching the clip. So for you, now that all this stuff has changed, because you started your women's group prior to COVID, right? It started
Yes.
before COVID. When COVID hit, how did that affect you and your group? And then how did you adjust with the tactics? Because I imagine people coming in, it's a little bit more stressful at COVID time frame than it was before COVID time frame. And God willing, before it'll be after.
Yeah, so man, you are asking some good questions. I'm glad I showed up today.
I appreciate you. I'm glad you came too.
Man, I remember the first session when COVID hit and uh the world, it was really heavy. It was a heavy
Mm,
session, heavy hearts. I think I'm trying to think if I remember being emotional um because the uncertainty was just at a really high point at that time for
right,
everybody,
right,
right? And it was
right.
like there were women in my group who were nurses, at the
Mm,
time, and we just took a second to check in with everyone and ask like, how is life, right? We can
right,
talk about real estate and things like that in business, but first and foremost, it was how is life. I remember we said a prayer during one of those calls. It was really, that uncertainty was hard. And even when I went through the emotions of COVID, not knowing what was going on, right, running back and forth to the store, stocking up, like all of that, I did it.
right, right.
I listen. I was like, is this about to be the Hunger Games,
Yep.
right? Like I did it. And but at the end of the day, the women expected me to show up, and I showed
Hmm.
up, and I showed up for them. And the thing is that the pivot was continue showing up, and I encouraged
Right,
them to continue showing up. I encouraged them, hey, everybody's home right now and on their phone, right? So
facts.
figure out a way, in terms of growing your business, figure out a way to get in front of people. Of course, I'm marketing and I already know marketing, so I'm going to continue marketing. And so we had a couple of marketing focused sessions, right? Talking about different strategies, different ways to do this, that, get properties, network with buyers, sellers, investors. We spent time focusing on that.
Right.
And that was the pivot of the conversation was, what do we do? How do we live in the current state and move and continue to move forward? And a really great friend of mine who is also my podcast co-host, Mr. Charles Oglesby.
Oglesby. Yep.
Um, he I remember he was we were talking and he was like looking at vending machines or something like that. He was
Hmm.
looking at like buying a route. And I was like, how are you like looking at buying, more businesses and like it's a pandemic. Like, dude, what are
Yeah.
you
Right.
doing?
What?
And
Right.
he was like, I mean, Rashauna, the world is going to keep going. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't matter because we all gonna be dead anyway. And I was
Right.
like,
Ooh.
you're
Ooh. I
right.
didn't think about it like that. Yeah. That's a good thought
I
process.
was, I mean, and Charles is a totally, totally 1000% businessman, right? So he's
Hmm.
always thinking of the next move, the next, this or that. And I was like, you know what? You're right. As I'm going through all of these different emotions, but it was also a time where you had to also be careful of how you navigated online, especially
Right.
while you have a brand, because you do have to be sensitive. There was a lot of loss being experienced at that time. So it
Right.
was definitely not an easy thing to navigate, especially when you, like you said, you are showing up as a leader and people are looking to you to see how you respond and looking at you, to see what you're going to do. But
Right.
just had to keep
Mm.
showing up. 90% of success is showing up.
That is a fact. The other thing, if you think about it too, when Charles said that, it harkens to a quote by, I want to say it's Warren Buffett. He said, when everybody else is running, you go two. When everybody's going two, you run. And just that thought process that he had to keep going and to dig deeper into a different route, that's a lot of foresight right there. That's a lot of foresight.
That's wisdom. And I mean, he blew up. His business blew up during the
Mm,
pandemic. That's probably
wow.
who you want on your show next. And
All right, say no more.
but
Charles, I'm coming.
just with that mindset though, right?
Right,
Like, and
right.
that thought, he certainly shifted my mindset. So yeah.
That's fantastic. Okay, so next question. Next question. So you all this pandemic stuff has happened. Before the pandemic, and about 2 or 3 months ago, I watched an interview and you said that there's a lot of bidding wars going on. And I read an article yesterday that said that the market has turned to a very low market, as in low supply, and still a super high demand. And I know you can only speak to Chicago, so I'd like to speak to specifically Chicago. What's your thoughts on the market in Chicago, and where do you see it going? Not just as a real estate investor, but as well as as an agent, because you see both sides of that wall, which is an advantage to say the least.
Where do I see it's going? I mean, I don't try to predict the market. I don't.
Fair.
I take it for what it is and what I
Mm-hmm.
have, and I show up and I do the best that I can do, for my clients and for myself, right? Because I am a
Right.
client as well.
Right.
So, speaking to the state of the market, yes, very competitive, low supply, high demand, which essentially is pushing the prices up of everything, because you have to think about it. There was so much money pumped into the market, right? There were so many millionaires created during the pandemic, or thousandaires, right? So many people
Yep.
reached their first six figures and things like that, during the pandemic. And like I said, these PPEs and these loans and these grants, so much money pushed into the market. Now everybody wants to turn around and invest, right? Now everybody
Right.
wants to say, hey, like, I got this extra money. I've never had this much money in my bank
Right.
account before, right? Like, I
Right. What I'm gonna do with it?
literally, people have literally said that to me. Like, I've never had this much money in my bank account before. And
Wow.
it's like, what am I going to do with it?
Right.
And so, people are turning to look at investing in real estate. Interest rates have also dropped. So, which, another set of buyers is like, hey, it's a great time to buy. Interest rates are low. Um, but then on top of that, you have
Mm,
all these people with all of this extra money, new buyers in the market with lower interest rates. But then there's a moratorium on foreclosures, and the market is missing on average 4 million homes. So, it creates, like I said, a crazy market that we're in right now. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes, I can only speak to Chicago because I have some out of state, like, investor clients. There were some I was speaking from, in particular from New Jersey, and they
right.
said their market, the way that we're experiencing it now, they've been like that for years.
Wow.
It's been a hot market, supply and demand. So some markets have been experiencing that, and they've navigated accordingly, right? And so I believe that as investors, that's really what we have to do, is navigate the market accordingly, right? And pivot
Right.
accordingly. So if at the time, right, the foreclosures get released and now all of these homes are in the market, I mean, people are going to continue to buy property. I remember one of my very first posts, at the beginning of the pandemic. It was the first week, everybody was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? The second week, everybody's still like, what's going on? The third week, it was like, oh, I think we'll be back to normal next week. And then it
Right.
was like, yeah, no. It was like, yeah, no, this went on for another year,
Not at all.
right? Year and a half.
Right.
But in the midst of that, one of my very first posts
Mm-hmm.
was, real estate will be bought and sold until the end of time. And that was the only
That's a
thing that I
fact.
could say at the time, to where I was like, I don't want to say anything about, oh, because there was a lot of I don't know, is that the right word? Insensitivity.
Yeah,
Being
insensitivity. That's
insensitive.
pretty good.
Did I
Being
make? I'm like
insensitive.
that.
No, you messed up the
Okay.
second time.
but
The
there,
first time you had it.
but there was a lot of individuals being insensitive online
Mm-hmm.
at the time, right? So by being a quote unquote influencer, like you have to be careful with what you say.
It's a fact.
And when I made that, I meant it, right? But I didn't,
Right.
I made sure that I wasn't insensitive about it, but I meant it. And then literally right after that, it comes out, real estate is an essential business and
Wow.
such. So right away, the National Association of Realtors and everybody's, we're having national and statewide conference calls talking about how to navigate this new normal, right?
Right. Right.
Um, Gloves and masks and sanitizers and and all of that. And so I say all that to say that in life, in business, like we are going to continuously be thrown different challenges, right?
It's a
And
fact. Yep.
amidst those challenges, what are what are you gonna do, right? It's
Right.
like the book. So inside of my women's group, we always have a book of the month, and one of the books that we read was "Who Moved My Cheese," and it's a
Ooh,
short,
that's
quick
a good one.
read,
Yeah, that's a good one
but
though.
it's a funny read, right?
Yeah.
Because it's literally like, hey, okay, things happen, things change. What are you going to do about it? And
Right.
that's the attitude that we have to have in life. And that's the same attitude that I have with the market. So as the market adjusts, I'll adjust. So that's a long way of saying I don't know what's going to happen with the market. I'm not going to try and predict the market.
No.
All I know is that I'm going to show up and I'm going to be present and I'm going to still be hustling. I'm sure, in the market. So hopefully there's some opportunity, prices, things level out and price points, kind of go down. That's what
Right.
we're hoping,
Right.
but who knows?
No, that's a fair assessment because you don't want to put it out there that's going to do this, and this, and it doesn't actually do that. Not to mention, it's not worth taking that risk to put that out there. It's like you said, it's always wiser
I
to just
mean,
be able to
it's
react.
gonna do what it's gonna do.
Exactly. There's no point doing worrying about anything else. Just go with the flow. So with that said, what's when this kind of thing happens as a leader and somebody who's leading a group like Flipping in Heels, I know it's tough. What's the advice that you give to somebody who's brand new coming into a game, particularly a female who coming into the game, and she's like, "Hey, Rashauna, I want to go at it. I want to buy up the world, but I don't know what to do. I thought I had it figured out. The pandemic hit. What do I do now? What's that advice? How do you get around that?"
The first thing is you actually, I would ask why, right? Why do you want to do this? What's the reason, right? Because a lot of people look at the success, the glitz, the glam, and it's like, oh,
Right.
it's easy. First and foremost,
It ain't
it
easy.
is not
It ain't easy.
easy. It is
It ain't
not
easy.
easy. It is a job. So, the question is, are you passionate about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a true passion for being in this business? Because it's going to require a lot of heart. Even if you aren't passionate about it, do you at least have the hustle, right? Because
Right.
I also believe in, doing what you have to do until you can do what you want to do. But like there's going to be days as in entrepreneurship and as in life where you aren't going to feel like doing stuff, right? You're going to deal with so much in this business that um you got to have the guts to stick in it, for one. For two,
Right.
do you have the resources? Do you have the network? Or are you willing to network to build your resources?
Right.
I talk to my ladies all the time about, this is a relationship business and things like that. So hustle and network and resources is what you
It's
need
everything.
essentially to, yeah, it's everything, but it's also what you need to get going and to be successful and to keep going, because guess what, in this market where there's no inventory on the market but there's a ton of buyers,
Right.
I got a network, and essentially, I'm moving a lot of deals off market because there are no deals on the market. So I got to reach out and say,
Right.
hey, what do you have going on? What do you have coming up? What do hey, I'm reaching out to other realtors. I'm reaching out to wholesalers. I'm reaching out to sellers. I spoke with my inspector and I said, hey, I need stuff to sell. I need, my inspector is inspecting buildings and, properties
Right.
all over the city,
Right.
right? So he
Yep.
has network and resources. He sent me 3 sellers, right? That I've been able to connect with. So, and it's funny, they call me the connector because, and people say like, oh, everybody, but that's because from an early age, my mom can tell you, I've been curious from day one, and I ask
Hmm.
questions, and I show up, I ask questions. So if I want to meet you, I'm gonna go up and meet you. You know, if I want
Right.
to talk to you, if
Right.
I want to ask questions, find out, who you are, what you do, what you're about, that's what I'm gonna do. And I didn't realize that that would carry over into business and actually benefit me, right? If I'm curious, if I got a question, I'm gonna figure it out.
So speaking of questions, that is one thing that I kind of feel like is your basically your superpower. Because even on the podcast that comes out, when you and Charles are talking to your guest, who has been the most impactful guest for you personally on your podcast?
Oh man, you gonna ask me to pick?
You can give one or two. You don't
That
have to be one more than the other.
Yeah, so oh was it Henry? Henry did great. Henry Washington has a great story about how he started, and he started, I want to say, with one house, and I believe he was working his 9 to 5 at the time. But I love the way he leveraged his portfolio. Well, he
Mm-hmm.
leveraged like the bank and just started slow and then just built it. Shannon Steele, of course, was amazing,
That was
and
a good
we
one.
have since connected and built a relationship. From there. Trying to think. Those were two good ones. Who else? Oh, Brian Rigbu. Man,
Oh,
when we
Brian's an
interviewed
animal.
Brian,
That guy's
yeah,
nuts.
Brian is a beast. When we interviewed Brian, I got off. I got off that podcast ready to go do subject twos, wraparounds, auctions. Like, I got to get some deals. I got to do something, right? Like,
That's
Brian
it.
is the man, and he's so intelligent and has it. And so, I'm grateful definitely to be a part of the podcast because I get to meet great people,
Right.
interview dope people, and I get to be inspired by uh, so many African American men and business women, men and women and men business owners from across the country,
Right.
who are in real estate or whatever type of business that I can learn from. So yeah, I would say those are my top ones.
Yeah, those are good choices. Brian, I've seen a couple times. I've heard him speak a couple times, and he's just the fact how simply he speaks on such a deep and kind of complicated topic is really impressive, and it's pretty cool. So I can
Hmm.
definitely get behind that. But you're no slouch yourself. Let's go ahead and be honest about that, because you've been swinging a hammer for a little while now, right? So how long when you first
Well,
started? How long has it been?
I don't really swing hammers. I just like point fingers.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But I mean, that's the
um,
rule of being a boss. You got to be a boss.
So my first investment was in 2015. So that was
Mm-hmm.
6 years ago. 6 years ago.
Sheesh. That's
And
not that long.
yeah, I invested in someone else's project at the time. So, and I was 23 6 years ago. So I was a young broke college student and wanting to so badly invest in real estate and was trying to navigate the world and trying to figure it out. And someone allowed me the opportunity to invest in their project. And I remember being so excited. I had my whole family come out to the open house and like everything. And I only had like $5,000 invested in there, but
Right.
and I think the minimum was like $10,000, but I earned my 15% return, which was like $325, and I was just so excited from the return that I got because it was a passive investment, right? I
Right.
invested my money, I didn't have to do anything, and I just got my money back plus a return. But the great thing about that was I was also able to show up and ask questions, right? And so
Mm.
we have called that mentor hacking essentially because in today everybody wants a mentor, but everybody wants a mentor for free also, right? Like you know you can't be entitled.
Right.
Right.
That's fact. That's a fact.
You can't expect anybody to do anything for you or to give you anything. So how dare those adults who want something out of life, out of the nothing they put in. So
Right.
I didn't realize it at the time, but that's what I was doing. I was mentor hacking, and that investment allowed me my seat at the table, right? Like, you have my money, so you want to make me as an investor happy. So I'll show up and at this project, and I'm asking questions. I'm asking, oh, so what does this mean? What does that mean? Talking to the plumber, talking to the
Right.
electricians, just figuring stuff out because I really wanted to learn the investing thing. And I was the smallest investor on the project, right? There were $50,000 investors on there who never came to the property once. But I was so eager to learn how to invest in real estate. And so that was, yeah, my very first start.
That's awesome. No, that's awesome. I've told people before, and I've had people ask me, because I've done a flip. I'll do it again, but I've got to always have a partner that kind of knows what they're doing. Because the one that I did not go as well as I planned, and stuff happens, particularly in your first one. But having the ability to learn from somebody, even if you're working for free, take the opportunity, learn, and pull whatever skills you can. And for you, Rashauna, being able to, like you said, mentor hack, putting some money in, and then going to the site and just being a sponge, being that fly on the wall and asking all kinds of questions as much as possible, is really what sets you apart from the next person. So that makes perfect sense. So you're investing, and you're a real estate agent. Why did you do both?
Yeah. So I only got my license to be a better investor.
Mm,
And I just said, oh, I just wanted access to the MLS. And I said, I'll help a friend or a family member here or there.
right.
Because I was already in the investing space. And what I tell people all the time, the consumer doesn't know the difference. So for me, like you said, while I was building my brand awareness was key. So everybody knew
Mm-hmm.
me at the time for real estate, but they didn't know exactly what I did in real estate. They just knew something about real estate. So when friends and family would come to me, I would have to refer them out. Oh, I'm not licensed, right? And then,
Right.
I mean, it only takes two times for you to realize, okay, I'm missing out on money, right? That's
Right.
opportunity that I'm missing out on. So let me go ahead and get my license. Yeah, I'll do that here and there. And then I'll be able to find my own deals as well.
Yeah,
Fast
that's
forward.
right. Right. Now you're killing it, and then some. That's awesome.
um yeah, but no, that's why. But my passion is investing for sure, and that's why I've been able to attract a lot of investor clients, and then
Right.
also be known as the investor's realtor, because I was educating so many investors. I was utilizing my platform to educate so many investors,
Right.
and educating is selling, right? So as I was educating, the clients were coming, the deals were coming. And as I continued to do that, then it was like, boom, the investor's realtor. Like, I
Wow.
look up and all I got are investor clients because I educated on that, right? Like, how many
Right.
people 4 years ago was saying, hey, this is how you utilize a self-directed IRA to invest in tax-free, real
Not a
estate
soul.
tax-free or tax-deferred. This is how
Yep.
a 1031 exchange works. This is how, you utilize business credit. This is how you actually can leverage your personal credit to get business credit to invest in real estate, right? Um, like,
That's a fact.
so it was a love and a passion of mine, and I was just sharing that, and then it grew into this.
So for those of you who are listening or watching, you just got a lesson from Rashauna Scott on how to go about building your brand. Share your journey, share your story, put it out there. Just be passionate about what you do. Don't worry about who's watching. Don't worry about who's saying what. Just keep going, because like we said before, consistency has everything. And the consumer, as Rashauna said, because I wrote that quote down, consumer don't know the difference. that's
They
something I'll never
don't.
forget.
They don't. And I'm glad you said, it doesn't matter who, what they say or who says what and whatnot, because I had definitely had the naysayers like, oh, she thinks she all this, or she this, or
Right,
she that, or she not
right.
even, really doing real estate that much, or she did, like there were those naysayers, and it got back to me.
Yep.
And it got me down, like a time or two. And I remember talking with my cousin one time, and she was, she got on me like, girl, don't you ever, right?
Yep.
Like feed into that. But and the thing was, I wasn't showing up saying I'm a guru, I'm an expert. I wasn't saying that. I was just showing up and sharing my journey, right? Perception is
Right.
reality. So when people perceive that, oh, this is, what you're doing when you're just sharing your journey, like you can't you can't what's the word I'm looking for, you don't have anything to do with the way people look at you and perceive you,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Like if
Yep.
somebody says, oh, she's this and that, then to them, you this and that, right? If you look like
Right.
this over here to this person, then that's what it is. And I totally could. I'm so far from Karen. I don't even like that. It wouldn't even come to me nowadays as to who, what, whatever, right? But
Right.
back in the day, that did, and I want to address that because imposter syndrome is something real, right? There's so
Right.
many people that do not put themselves out there because they're like, well, I don't want to, make it seem like I'm trying to say I got it all together. No, 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 right? Like you aren't
Right.
saying that. And if people perceive it that way, then that's on them for them
Yep.
to perceive it that way. But guess what? On the other side of that, there's somebody that's being inspired. There's somebody that's being encouraged by your journey and learning, what you're doing, and
It's a
and
fact.
it's truly helping them, right?
That's a fact.
So I've said this line before and I'll say it again. How many women would have been left uninspired if I had waited until I felt like I had it all together to share my journey? Because if
Right.
that's the case, I wouldn't be here today, right? Because I still don't feel like I have it all together. So I would have not been on social sharing my journey, and I wouldn't be, what do you say, had this brand that I have
Right.
today.
Yep. I mean, that's an absolute fact, because I've actually had the conversation. I had a conversation with someone the other day, and it's on the same level to a lower extent. But the issue that I was having, and not even an issue, what was odd was I'd go out about places, and people would see my live videos or the videos that I did online that are out there,
Hmm.
the few and far
Hmm.
between, and they'd say, "Man, I thought you were tiny. Like I thought you were like 5'5". Like I'm sitting in a chair. How would how would anybody come? But it's just the mindset. It's just the first thing that's gonna pop in their mind is what's gonna stay there. And it's never it's not necessarily a negative thing in that, but it just is what it is. So you can't really be too concerned about what everybody's concerned about. Additionally, though, I did want to ask you this, because you're an entrepreneur. You've been doing this for a while now, and I'm starting to see, as I'm doing the research, I'm interviewing more people, I feel as though imposter syndrome is almost a rite of passage at this point. It's something that every entrepreneur from Mark Cuban to me has to deal with. What are your
Hmm.
thoughts? Do you feel like, is that something that everybody you think has to go through to make it to the other side of entrepreneurship?
I would say so. Yeah,
Mm.
sure. I don't. I mean, unless you're Charles,
Shout out to Charles out here
unless
killing it.
you know. I mean, yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
I
Yeah.
mean, anybody who's trying to do anything who's never done anything before,
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
right?
Because you got to
Like
start somewhere.
anything significant, right? Or you feel like you're trying to do something on a larger scale when you've never done anything on a large scale before.
Right.
Especially in this social light, because in this social light, you have to look like this, be this, do this, say that, dress a certain way, right?
Yep.
But once you get past that, there's so much freedom on
It
the other
is.
side of that,
It really
right?
is.
But then also too, I'm not gonna say everybody has to go through that. But there's definitely something to be said about just showing up as your authentic self, regardless.
Yep.
And in your
Yep.
authentic self, if you deal with that, then that's normal. But there are some people who show up as their authentic self, and from day one, they take off, right?
That's a fact. Yeah.
But yeah, but that growth, it's totally natural to have self doubt. You know, as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, and not even just in the beginning, but as you're even going to different phases, right?
Right. Right. So, yeah, that's absolutely true. I think that's a great way of looking at it. That's a really, really good way of looking at it. Now, I know you're a busy lady, and I don't want to suck up all your time, because I could talk to you forever and a day. I'm going to be honest. So I'm going to ask you two questions. These questions are the questions that we use to close out the show. And the first one's relatively easy, and the second one's a little bit tougher. The first one is called the troop to task. And what the troop to task is, it's a military term. So in the military, we tell somebody, hey, this is your job. This is what I want you to do to go to get to this goal. Your troop to task is the moment you get to tell the audience what they can do to take that first step onto the right path to get on a path that you've already traveled. Go for it.
Educate yourself. Period. Point blank. In every second that you get, every free second that you get. So if you're traveling to and from work, whether it be bus, train, plane, car, are you listening to a podcast or are you watching Showtime? I remember being on a bus going to work and literally standing up. I mean, bus is packed, right? Rush hour.
Mm-hmm.
And literally somebody standing up holding their phone, watching a whole episode of TV on their phone. And I was just like, wow, like, okay, that's what we do. That's what people are doing.
Yep.
But in your free time, right? So I want you to think about how you're spending your free time. I just recently passed my managing broker's license. And
Congratulations.
for me, thank you. And for me, passing my license meant studying in my free time, right? Studying in my downtime. And making the time to invest in my personal development. Because here's the thing, in my business, I run a service-based business, so I get paid to show up for other people, right? I get paid to show up, show houses, go to inspections, go to closings, be there, right? Move in, move out, whatever, right? So, that's how my time is spent doing that. But then in my free time, I have to be showing up for myself. And what does that look like? And that can look like, self-care or, whatever it is that I choose for it to look like, to be honest. Right. But, in at the times where I'm ready to go to the next level, I know what I need to focus on. And that's what I need to do in my downtime and my free time. So I don't care if it's a podcast. I don't care if it's YouTube University. I don't care what it is. And there's so many amazing free resources that that people have now that weren't out 10 years ago. That's a no-brainer. Yeah
100%. You're 100% on it. That YouTube University is real, though. For those of you, if you can get to YouTube, I swear you can learn anything on YouTube. You want to knit socks? Literally. You can learn to knit socks on YouTube. It's a place to be.
Literally.
All right. So the next question, Rashauna, is what question do you wish you were asked more often, and what's the answer to that question? That's the hard one.
I know. What question do I wish that I was asked more often? I think, what do I really want out of life? And I guess it depends on from who, right? Who's the question coming from?
That's true.
But I'm spending a lot of time lately just thinking about, what do I really want, right? Like when I'm presented with an opportunity, does this align with what I really want? When I say that, because it could be a great opportunity. And I'm going to give you a real life example. I could start a property management company today and it grows so big and become so successful and it be so easy to build, right?
Right.
Building a business is one thing, running a business is another. And
that's true. That's very true.
Right? Because I have the clientele. I have, the inventory. Well,
right.
I'm with it. I'm matching clients with properties and buildings and things like that, right? So every time I sell a building, bam, there's a property management client. So literally I make money from a closing and now I transition them into, residual income, right? So the concept is there, but what do I really want? And the money is going to be great, but do I really want to be on the beach and somebody is calling me saying my house is on fire, my building is on fire? Is that what I really want? Because although I can build a company, my celebrity clients and whomever, if there's an issue, they're not going to be calling the front desk. They're going to be calling me,
on you,
right? Yep. Because it's my company, my business, my responsibility. And I really took some time to ask myself, do I want another job? And whatever other job that I create, do I want it like that? Right? Because there's so many ways that we can, build businesses and make money, right? But is that the way that I want it. Although it could be easy, although it looks easy, although literally if I started it today, I'd have 30 clients tomorrow, right?
Right.
But is that what I really want?
Ooh, that's a good way to fight that shiny object syndrome, because as entrepreneurs, that thing is everywhere, and you're constantly like, oh,
What?
there's, oh, I see that, oh, that's over there,
What? And
man.
here's the thing: we want to do everything because we know we can,
Yep.
but
That's it.
really, but really, can you, or really should you?
Right. And does it line up with that end goal, like you said? Man, I wrote that down, so I'm gonna save that for later. So if you see that on IG, Rashauna, it's not my fault. I'm sorry.
Just
Um,
tag me. Just tag me.
I got you. All right, so Rashauna, I know I gotta let you go. Where can people find you? Where can they track you down? Where can they tie into what you're doing?
Yes, yes. So I am Rashauna Scott everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Those are the main platforms that I'm on. And Flippininheels. You can find me at Flippininheels on Instagram. And yeah, social media is a great way, probably the best way to connect. And then through my social media channels are all of my additional links to connect with me.
That's a fact, ladies and gentlemen. I have had the absolute pleasure and honor to be able to speak to Miss Rashauna Scott today. I appreciate you guys if you tuned in, if you've been here watching. Thank you so much. Please make sure you check out the episode, as it'll be on YouTube directly after this, because it's live, and I'm not putting no thumbnail up till a little bit later. So that's gonna be up there. You have full access to it. The episode will be out a little bit after that, and it's a little bit down the line, so it might be a month or so. But nonetheless, please reach out to Rashauna, particularly if you want to do some business in Chicago. She's 100% the person you want to talk to. She is the name that I'm definitely going to talk to when that time comes. But I advise that all of you do the same. So in the meantime, thank you so much again, Rashauna, for coming on. Again, it's been an absolute honor and pleasure, and I'm looking forward to hopefully talk to you another time to do another follow-up interview. And until then, for everybody who's listening and watching, we'll see you next time. Oh, and remember, you're better than you were, but you're not half as good as you're going to be. I tell you what, I'm working on that tagline. All right, ladies and gentlemen, y'all have a great day.